Welcome to the Mind Spark, bringing you the latest news from around the world. The news broke quietly. Amazon was moving its global headquarters out of Seattle. For nearly 30 years, Amazon and Seattle were inseparable, shaping the city and the tech era. The announcement was more than a business move. It was a seismic shift, raising questions about the future of American enterprise. Amazon, a symbol of American capitalism, was now renouncing its roots, citing an unpredictable domestic business climate. The shock was immediate, leaving Seattle stunned, and the nation scrambling for answers. This wasn't just about jobs, it was about the soul of American innovation, and the country's place in the world. The move triggered a national crisis, dominating headlines and sparking fierce debate about economic policy and national identity. Amazon's exodus became a symbol of the growing rift between politics and commerce, and the consequences when that relationship fractures. To truly grasp the shock that rippled through Seattle, you have to look beneath the headlines and understand the deep roots of Amazon's dominance in the city. For years, Amazon wasn't just a company headquartered in Seattle, it was the city's beating heart, its economic engine, and its most influential resident. Amazon's relentless expansion transformed Seattle from a quiet, rain-soaked port town into a bustling global tech hub, drawing talent and investment from around the world. The skyline itself changed, with cranes and new skyscrapers rising almost overnight, a physical testament to the company's explosive growth. By the 2020s, Amazon filled over 14 million square feet of office space, fueling an unprecedented economic boom. The company's presence brought tens of thousands of high-paying jobs, attracting ambitious professionals and entrepreneurs eager to be part of the next big thing. New businesses flourished, from trendy restaurants to innovative startups, all hoping to ride the wave of prosperity Amazon created. Neighborhoods once overlooked became hotspots for development and nightlife. But this rapid growth came at a steep cost. Soaring housing prices and rampant gentrification made it nearly impossible for many longtime residents to stay in the city they loved. The influx of wealth drove up rents, pushing out families and individuals who had called Seattle home for generations. Small businesses struggled to keep up with rising costs, and many were forced to close their doors. Meanwhile, homelessness surged, with encampments becoming a common sight under highways and in city parks. The city's infrastructure buckled under the strain of rapid population growth. Traffic jams became a daily ordeal, and public transit overflowed as more people poured into the city. As frustration mounted, city leaders tried to address these challenges by proposing new taxes on big corporations like Amazon. This sparked fierce clashes, with activists demanding accountability and Amazon pushing back, warning of dire consequences. Amazon was both Seattle's greatest asset and its biggest challenge, a double-edged sword that brought prosperity and pain in equal measure. Years of mounting friction and public debate set the stage for what would become an inevitable showdown as both sides struggled to find common ground. The final straw may have been the imposition of new tariffs, threatening Amazon's global supply chain, but the roots of the split ran much deeper, entwined in years of unresolved tension and competing visions for Seattle's future. Seattle's prosperity came with a price, and the city's complicated relationship with Amazon was always teetering on the edge, caught between the promise of progress and the reality of growing pains. To understand Amazon's move, you need to know how tariffs reshaped the global economy. Tariffs, taxes on imports, were meant to protect American industry, but in a globalized world, they became weapons in trade wars. The Trump administration's aggressive tariffs upended decades of stable trade, sparking retaliation and chaos. For Amazon, whose business relies on global supply chains, tariffs were devastating. Costs soared for everything from electronics to clothing, squeezing margins and forcing tough choices, absorb losses or raise prices. Third-party sellers, many of them small businesses, were hit even harder, unable to compete as costs rose. The ripple effects threatened Amazon's entire ecosystem, reducing variety and value for customers. The company found itself trapped between rising costs and shrinking options. The tariff war made Amazon's American base a liability. The old rules of global commerce no longer applied. The trade war didn't just raise costs, it fundamentally broke the global supply chain Amazon had spent years perfecting. What once seemed like a well-oiled machine, capable of moving products from one side of the world to the other with astonishing speed, suddenly ground to a halt. The intricate web of suppliers, shippers, and warehouses that Amazon relied on was thrown into chaos almost overnight. Amazon's edge was always its speed and efficiency, moving goods worldwide in days, not weeks. The company's fulfillment centers buzzed with activity, and its promise of near-instant delivery set a new standard for online shopping. Customers had come to expect that anything they ordered would arrive at their doorstep almost as quickly as they could click buy, but then, tariffs shattered that system, making every shipment a gamble. Suddenly, every container faced new inspections, unexpected fees, and the looming threat of being held up at the border. The certainty Amazon had built its reputation on was replaced by unpredictability. Political whims dictated new barriers, causing delays, mountains of paperwork, and unpredictable costs. Each day brought new rules and regulations, forcing Amazon's logistics teams to scramble just to keep up. Amazon's logistics network, once seamless, became a maze of disruptions. Delays rippled through the system, and what used to be a straightforward process now required constant troubleshooting and contingency planning. Companies scrambled to shift manufacturing out of China, searching for alternatives in Vietnam, India, and beyond. But no country could match China's scale, infrastructure, or efficiency overnight. The transition was slow, costly, and fraught with new challenges. The result? Higher costs, missed deadlines, and frustrated customers. Shoppers who once took fast delivery for granted now faced uncertainty, and Amazon's reputation for reliability began to suffer. Prime's promise of fast, free delivery was under threat. The very foundation of Amazon's customer loyalty, speed, was slipping away, and the company struggled to maintain its standards. The company's business model, built on global trade and open borders, was now at odds with America's protectionist turn. The rules of the game had changed, and Amazon found itself caught in the crossfire of international politics. Operating from the US became a strategic risk, as the political climate grew more unpredictable and the threat of further restrictions loomed. The unraveling supply chain exposed a deeper conflict. Amazon's global ambitions clashed head-on with America's new wave of economic nationalism. The company was forced to confront a future where its global reach was no longer an advantage, but a liability. The company faced a stark choice: adapt to the new reality, or consider relocating key operations to friendlier markets. The stakes had never been higher. The decision was becoming inevitable. Amazon stood at a crossroads, forced to rethink everything it knew about global commerce in a world that was rapidly closing its doors. Amazon's decision to relocate wasn't sudden. It was the result of years of analysis and mounting frustration. Leadership watched as tariffs and political hostility became permanent fixtures. Financial models showed billions lost to tariffs and supply chain chaos. Retaliatory tariffs threatened Amazon's access to global markets, especially for its cloud business. The political climate, with constant attacks from the White House, made long-term planning impossible. Amazon needed a stable, business-friendly home committed to free trade. The search was secretive, focused on countries with strong legal systems and global trade ties. The move was a strategic break from America's volatility, a declaration that Amazon was now a global, not American company. The headquarters would reflect that new reality. The White House lashed out instantly. President Trump called Amazon's move un-American, accusing the company of betrayal and tax evasion. He threatened investigations and new laws targeting disloyal corporations. The administration's response was personal and punitive, not policy-driven. Supporters cheered the tough talk, while critics blamed years of chaotic trade policy for driving Amazon away. The debate became a spectacle, focused on loyalty and patriotism rather than the real economic issues. Amazon stayed silent, letting the firestorm rage. Amazon's exit sent shockwaves through corporate America. Suddenly, boardrooms questioned whether the US was still the safest place for global business. The move signaled that political risk had reached a tipping point. Companies slowed investments and began diversifying operations abroad. The tech sector, long confident in American exceptionalism, was forced to confront its vulnerability. International partners saw the move as a sign of declining US stability. The world began to rethink its reliance on America, accelerating economic fragmentation. Amazon's departure marked a turning point in the global order. In Seattle, Amazon's departure triggered an economic and social reckoning. The city, once defined by the relentless pace of tech-driven growth, suddenly found itself at a crossroads. The skyline, once a symbol of innovation and prosperity, now stood as a reminder of how quickly fortunes can change. The real estate market froze almost overnight. Construction projects that had been the lifeblood of the city's expansion ground to a halt, leaving cranes idle and half-finished buildings dotting the landscape. Small businesses, from coffee shops to dry cleaners, that had thrived on the daily influx of Amazon employees, faced collapse as foot traffic vanished. The city's budget, heavily reliant on Amazon's tax revenue, faced a massive shortfall. City officials scrambled to rework financial plans, cutting services and delaying projects that had once seemed certain. The loss rippled through every department, from public transportation to education. The exodus of tech workers meant more than just empty offices. It signaled a brain drain, as talented professionals sought opportunities elsewhere, taking with them not just their skills, but also their energy and community involvement. The city's civic life, once vibrant with innovation, felt the loss deeply. Seattle, once overwhelmed by the challenges of rapid growth, rising rents, traffic congestion, and crowded streets, now faced the opposite problem: a sudden contraction. The city's pulse slowed, and the silence was both unsettling and strangely peaceful. Yet in the midst of crisis, seeds of resilience began to sprout. The shock forced a renewed push for economic diversification, with city leaders and entrepreneurs rallying to support local startups and small businesses. New ideas and collaborations emerged, aiming to build a more sustainable and inclusive economy. Empty office towers, once bustling with activity, became haunting symbols of a bygone era, but they also offered a blank canvas for creative reuse. Artists, nonprofits, and new ventures began to imagine new possibilities for these spaces, sparking a wave of urban reinvention. As the city's identity shifted, some residents found relief in the slower pace and lower costs. Parks and neighborhoods, once overshadowed by the tech boom, became places of connection and renewal. People rediscovered the simple joys of community and nature. The Amazon era had reshaped Seattle in profound ways, but its end opened the door to a more balanced, human-centered future. The city began to reimagine itself, blending lessons from the past with hope for what could come next. The pain of transition was real, but so was the opportunity for renewal. Communities came together, determined to write a new story, one rooted in resilience, creativity, and shared purpose. As the sun rose over Seattle, the city began to write a new chapter, one defined not by a single company but by the collective spirit of its people. Amazon's relocation is a case study in the collision of global capitalism and national politics. The move exposed the fragility of global supply chains and the risks of political instability. It turned a business decision into a national debate about loyalty, policy, and identity. The consequences rippled from Seattle to the world, challenging the myth of American exceptionalism. The U.S. now faces a crossroads: protect domestic interests or embrace global leadership. Amazon's departure forces a moment of national reflection. Can America thrive by turning inward, or must it find a new way to lead in a connected world?